Now it's easier than ever to just create something out of nothing. And that's so scary. And again, like it's amazing the possibilities that we have, but it's also a lot of power, sometimes in the wrong hands. I'm so excited to welcome you to the first ever episode of Mad Makings of Music, a podcast by Rose and Doctor. We are here because we love music and because we are worried about music. And we think it's high time to have some really urgent conversations. You might be thinking, lots of people are talking about music. Yeah, for sure. There's millions of online tutorials. There's plenty of podcasts that can teach you about the history of music or the stories behind the music you love. And that is all great. But no one seems to be questioning this status quo of the music industry or the ways that we consume and create music nowadays. And that's what we're here to do with you. And it doesn't really matter what genres you normally listen to or play, as long as you're open-minded to exploring some new perspectives. And you don't get offended too easily, because we are going to be honest. And we're going to get philosophical, maybe even serious at times, but we're also just here to share the magic of music. And Mike has some really wild stories to tell from his past of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So yeah, all together, it's going to be a very interesting journey that we're about to embark on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, really nice that you're here. Let's start with some quick introductions. I am Jina Rose. I grew up in a musician's family and I have been singing for as long as I can remember. I did have a few years of classical training, but I think I've learned the most from soul and funk music, and screaming is my therapy. I'm here with my co-host, who happens to be my father. Yeah, tell the people who you are.
Hello, I'm a doctor, Mike Doctor. My family, I was not a family of musicians. Yeah, of course, the grandfather, he was playing violin, but he was not a professional. But he was great on the violin. Anyway, I had some classical lessons on the guitar, but I soon discovered that actually it was more about the rock and roll. And so I have started to play electric guitar, and I enjoy it until now. And the biggest stage I ever had was Musical Hair in Vienna Stadthalle. And it was incredible, like 60,000 of people every night, sold out, and it was like lasting 3 months or longer. And Donna Summer happened to be on the stage with me. It was a great time.
You've been making music for a long time, and so it's really interesting that you've seen it develop through the years, the industry, the way that people make music. And as I said at the beginning, we're here because we are worried about music. And we do find ourselves asking the question if real music is dying, which sounds so depressing. And it kind of is, but there's also hope left. Otherwise, we would not be here to talk about it, right?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting what you said. I am a long time into the music industry, and I was thinking about it. Did it change really? Yes, it did, but yet at the same time, it's still always the same. That means the companies are just using us and ripping us off, and that's what we want to talk about too. But now
I mean, yeah, so that's one aspect, right? In which you could say, well, that's the industry, that's capitalism, right? It never changes. Yeah. But if we're talking about like real music in a sense of the quality of music or a certain honesty of music, let's start with let's try to define at least what real music is. I think in a very simplistic, puristic sense, you could say it's real humans playing real instruments. But we're not orthodox like that we're going to say Absolutely anything electronic is not real. Like, come on, we can really appreciate electronic music or in general what technology has brought to music. And yet we also have to question the recent developments where it seems to be taking over almost. Yeah. I mean, if we go back to when it started, sort of, with the technology coming into music, the first synthesizers, it was something else. I mean, first of all, it was really new. It was really
exciting.
Yeah, it was really innovative. Yeah. Suddenly you had possibilities that you didn't have before, and sounds that maybe didn't have anything to do with music could be used in a musical sense, right? But yet you still had to play an instrument. You still had to play the synthesizer. Yeah. But then also sequencers came. The other day you were telling me about this, that you remember like when you first used that on a recording.
Yeah, it was sort of used as a instrument adding to the whole composition. And that was a different way how to use sequencers.
Yeah,
nowadays it's the other way around.
You start with the sequencer and then you build something on top of it.
And then you build up something around it.
Yeah, you still had your songwriting, your harmonies, but what was interesting is that you said it was in a way limiting because it meant that you had to play on click. You had to you couldn't play freely anymore because the sequencer had to match the tempo.
So yeah, he was pretty commanding. I don't mind, but actually I really prefer to play without a click. It's more, you could say, almost more human.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the magic of finding the groove where you are communicating, and not only are you yourself trying to stay steady, but you are playing with other humans and finding that groove, which is never going to be perfect, but that's also a part of the real groove. And suddenly with the electronic beats, it can be really great that it's steady, but it's too perfect.
Yeah, I would say that if you don't play with the click, then you can speed up, and it's okay if you don't overdo it, right?
Yeah.
Slowing down, it's a little bit. Yeah. It's a different story.
It's better to, like, you should push it. It's better to push it than to slow down.
You should push it, right? But you cannot push it with click.
Yeah, that's true.
That means
it holds you back maybe a little bit.
Something is missing.
Yeah.
To me.
Mm-hmm. In this regard, as we're talking about real music, whatever that is, I guess it's just really interesting to think about, like, when did it cross a certain line? Because it was still being used in a very musical sense where you were still writing your songs, and it was just like an addition. It brought some new possibilities, which is really, really cool. But nowadays it seems to be dictating the way that we write music, where you start with the electronic beat or a sample. Okay, let's talk about samples, actually.
Okay.
Because I think, that's also the difference. I don't know, when you were playing a synthesizer, you were still playing it yourself, right? And when you're using samples, it's all pre-made. You just drag and drop it. You don't really create any part of it. It's all pre-made. And even though nowadays there's millions and billions of samples out there, it's insane. So you could say in a way that the options are unlimited, but yet they are limited because what you're working with, it's already given to you. And you don't have the creative freedom completely. And it can be so much fun, don't get me wrong. It can be so much fun to explore all those sounds, all those sequences, to put them together and create something. It can be really creative, absolutely. But if that's all you're doing, is that real music?
Yeah, it's probably also the problem with songwriting nowadays. It's not a samples, but then you have to ask yourself why almost everything sounds the same. And that's because it's like sampling the chorus again and again, and the grooves might be different, programming, but the melodies and everything, it's like almost like sampling.
You mean like it's not per se sampling, but it's like stealing or on the verge of stealing, like where it's just like reusing,
repeating
sort of,
the same thing all the time.
Imitating all the time.
Imitating, yeah, all right.
And I mean, imitating
you can
is...
say stealing too.
Yeah, I mean, that's really...
Sure.
It's a thin line. It's a thin line. And I think imitating is such an important part of music, or of learning, first of all, how to play, how to sing, whatever. And also of, you're aspiring to sound like somebody, in a sense, taking inspiration from someone. But that's the thing. If you want to be an original musician, then you have to, at a certain point, let go of the imitations.
Yeah. Now I think about internet, like it used to be that we didn't know. We heard some music, and we didn't have the vinyl, so we had the radios. When we happened to have a vinyl, then you would just destroy it, because you're listening again the same spot, and so you could learn how to play the part, right? And nowadays you just
look it up. You look up the tutorial. You look up the tabs or the
and there it
sheet.
is, and
it's
that's
too easy.
It's not only too easy, it's also that you don't go through this process of learning, and then you just being like a monkey, sort of just repeating the things that they show you, but you have no context. Or
you don't develop an understanding that maybe you get when you're listening. Like, why do they do what they do? No, you just imitate it.
Yeah, and that's...
and I mean, that is really one of the best practices to... I mean, I love to do that you're like listening to a melody and then you try to play it. And it takes
a great
patience.
way of learning.
But you're learning so much. Also just to really hear, like, what are they doing and how can I do that? And then along the way, like, you learn, how can I make this sound? Because it's not just like, here's how you do it.
Actually, I don't like the word learning. I prefer discovering.
It's beautiful. Well, we can talk about the school system on another episode.
Oh, yeah, that would be something too.
Yeah, for sure.
But okay, so what is the real music? I mean, it's almost impossible to say what is the real music.
Yeah,
right?
And I mean, it's not the point to define that so strictly, but I think it's important to ask these questions of... I mean, then you can also ask, like, what is art, right? And I think there we can find a lot of parallels, whether we're talking about painting or music or any other kind of art, where it's also about creating something new.
Yeah, exactly. It's like being a musician, you should never stop to discover something new. Because if you don't do it, then we are not a real musician.
I mean, it all ties together. Also, if we're talking about imitating or like inspiration or stealing or whatever, we're trying to be original, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to create something that hasn't been created before. And even if you're a great musician, even if you think you have it all figured out, there's always something new to discover.
You said original. That's also, how can you pinpoint original? What is original?
I want to talk about like, oh, real music is about discovering something new or making something great. But a lot of people feel really scared to sing because they can't sing well, or they don't like their voice or something. And that's really sad, because I think your voice can bring you so much joy, singing can bring you so much joy, and it doesn't always have to be about making something good, you know what I mean? And that is also art, that is also music. And real music can also be bad in that sense of like, you don't know what you're doing, you might not be as good as you want to be, but you're having fun at it. That can also be real art. But I think we also have to differentiate a little bit. Are we talking about what art can just mean in this very in this very liberal sense, or are we talking about also professional music?
The thing is, if you would take those people who don't like their voices, or they are ashamed to sing or whatever, then if they would be recorded with a good microphone, and you put some good plugins on it, oh man, they sound great. They start to like their voice, and that's what's happening in
I see
in the studios.
I see what you mean.
Right?
I mean, nowadays with all of these amazing plugins that we also love, but also how can you even tell what's real anymore? Because it really is like that. You can do so much with it that people who can't hit the notes at all, you just put some auto-tune on it and you're good to go. And people who don't have a strong voice, they can just fucking whisper into the microphone, and they treat it so well, like they're fucking professional producers. You don't know that this person...
We know the one who is whispering into the microphone.
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple artists who are...
A little scary though, well...
What, the power of the plugins? Or the whispering?
The whispering.
I mean, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I get that you're trying to
not only that,
mysterious,
if you have an angel, clean voice, you can put some whiskey on it. That means suddenly... Whiskey plug-in, yeah.
Plug-in.
And suddenly you have that kind of pop voice, yeah?
Oh, man. They should do that. Maybe it already exists, right?
Yeah, I had this experience being in the studio myself. We've been recording 2 songs, and the city of Zurich paid for it, and it was sort of a lot of money. 2 songs, 10,000 francs, and there were like 2 studios in one house, yeah, and there was this. She was German. And it was incredible. They were stopping the tape after every 2 words.
Oh my God!
Because not only of the intonation, I mean also her pronunciation and everything. But she looked gorgeous, you know. And at the end, the song, well, I thought, wow,
they pulled it together.
Oh yes, they did.
Yeah, that's amazing. You don't know what's happening in the studio. You just hear the finished product.
And that's like 20 years ago.
Yeah, they had to stop the tape, as you said. Now it's easier than ever to just create something out of nothing, and that's so scary. Yeah. And again, like it's amazing the possibilities that we have, but it's also a lot of power. Sometimes in the wrong hands.
A lot of power in the wrong hands.
Right?
Oh, I'm scared.
We're not
right
going to name any names.
No, we don't do that.
No, but I mean, and now, I mean, we're also talking about the big industry where they're also making incredible artists out of people who can't even really sing. But also if we're talking about, independent artists who don't have the money to go to huge studios and get produced like that, even then already the possibilities are so big to create something. And that brings us back to all of those samples and everything, where it's like you can just put a bunch of samples together and it sounds pretty good, and suddenly you're a musician.
Like the drummers who don't have the groove, right? If you play with a click, everything be fine. And you remember we had this drummer here. He have asked, hey, shall I use, are you using a click? And I said, no way. And
he was really excited.
He was excited. He was so happy. Right?
He's so used to he's playing with some big names around here, and they're like, it's a huge show and everything is like a click in your ear. And I mean, they do it like that nowadays, but it does take away from the magic of the moment. And that's why it was really cool, and it was so fucking punky, the live sessions that we did. And you can't exactly have that energy if you don't have that freedom of the groove. Yeah, for sure. But why did you bring that up, that it's like that?
Yeah,
you mean like
like singers with the auto-tune. All those
those digital crutches, sort of.
I used to play with a drummer. He didn't have a rhythm. He was really, really good with his technique, drumming, and actually he was good. Only he would not keep the beat going on. But on the stage, when he was playing with the click, was everything fine. Mm-hmm. So it's a real rhythm, real groove, real music.
It's a factor. It's a factor for sure.
Absolutely. So could we say the real music is when you play in the moment, and not only alone, but with other musicians, and then it will show who's got the rhythm and who's not. And this is the real music.
I mean, communication is a really important part of music.
Yeah.
And I mean, not to say that there can't be really great solo acts.
Yeah, sure.
But we talked about this the other day. There's a difference between musicians who have experience playing with people and they choose to do a solo concert or whatever, and people who don't really play with other musicians at all, like Ed Sheeran.
No names. You said Ed. All right.
Are we doing no names at all?
No.
It's too late for that.
Let's not put a corset on our discussion.
I don't know. Ed Sheeran is one of those cases. It's like he was playing here all alone with his loop machine, right? And it's just, I don't know. He's making so much money. He doesn't want to share any of it at all with any other musicians. I do think that's a factor going into it. Yeah, I think that if you have how many thousand people is that? 50,000?
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know. You have to offer them something more.
Yeah, but the problem is, I would say that most of the people don't realize that he doesn't play alone.
You mean because of the loop machine?
Because of the loop machine. And the loop, of course, sounds great because he has a great mixing board and great guys who are
Though I also think,
it.
I mean, it doesn't sound as great as if you had a real bass drum.
Yeah,
of course. But I mean, of course, they have a great production.
People
of course
buy
it sounds
because
good.
they love him.
Yeah, but oh my God! But I'm sorry, that drives me crazy that people cannot be critical of the artists that they love.
Distinguish somehow.
I mean, of course, I understand if you really love an artist, then you're excited to go to their concert and you want to have a good time and you appreciate them. Absolutely. But even then you can still, question a little bit. Like sometimes I go to concerts, and even though I love the band from their albums that I've been listening to all the time, I gotta admit that live they're not as great. Yep. You know what I mean? And it's disappointing, but I think it's important to be honest with yourself. And I think a lot of people, they're just like, I love this person and they're great. They're always great. They can't do anything wrong, because it's not necessarily really about the music, but rather about the person that they adore so much.
I like the stuff he's doing with the guitar, how he's hitting the guitar, getting the loop beat and thing, and
I mean, yeah, he does it well. He does it well for
sure. Some good harmonies. Okay, the songs are always the same, but I really sort of like what he's doing. Yeah. But what I don't like is that he is going on this solo project and using loop and fooling people, because it's not playing alone, and that one should really think about it.
Yeah, and also I think nowadays loop machines are so good and like also at correcting your rhythm or like
that's
because I think a lot of people think it's so hard to play with a loop machine, and of course you have to get the hang of it, but it's not that hard.
You have
really.
to know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Mama don't like that funkabilly swing.
Who was that?
But it's my thing. Is it Sambello, right?
Yeah, Sambello. Yeah, right. Yeah. So yeah, that's right. It's correcting you. So you can allow yourself to make some mistakes in the rhythm part. Yeah. Okay, mistakes are fine.
It's real. Mistakes are real.
When I'm recording and producing something, then I think I prefer to have magic than the perfection.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
That's some kind of a compromise. Mm-hmm. But if it's perfect and there is no magic on it, then I think it's useless.
That's the tendency nowadays where, those big productions, they're absolutely immaculate. They're perfect.
Especially in classical music. I remember, again, a story. In Amsterdam, I went to the concert hall, and there was this very talented, like, wonder child. Okay, he was not child. He was like 18, yeah? But a young guy playing solo, piano. And, I don't know. I don't remember his name. He was French, I guess. Anyway, he played incredible. So perfect and really wow. And then the next day, the newspaper have put him down because he played one note wrong. One note wrong. I don't know which one. It was probably instead of C, he played D.
It doesn't matter.
It was enough to put him down. Even he was incredible.
And it's not about the feeling, or I don't know. It's just about playing each note that you're supposed to play. Like, that's not what music is about either. And now that's a big statement where I think, a lot of these discussions are about mainstream and like the development in these digital realms. And now classical music, like all those orchestras, is a great example where they don't like to use the technology at all. They're very purist in that sense. It can be amazing, but that's an example where it's like, that's not what real music is about. Real music is not about not making a single mistake. Like, what matters much more is the emotion that you can bring, or the way that you play together with the other musicians, not the perfection.
You remember Paco de Lucia? I couldn't believe it. He said, the classical musicians don't have a rhythm. That's really bold, but I guess he might be right. We go back to what is the real music, what is the real rhythm, and that means like to us and Paco, the real rhythm is when you sort of fly. On fly, and the classical players, they might be great in their techniques and whatever. When you look at the rhythm, they read the notes, most of them. Yeah. But that's not what it's about. They have this kind of a rhythm of the bars.
Yeah.
Rhythm of the bars, and they might be precise. Mm-hmm. So, but it's not groovy.
Yeah.
I mean, groovy. Of course, you cannot make classical music groovy. Otherwise, it won't be classic anymore. But I mean, the rhythm is so strict somehow. Yeah,
because you're playing this composition. You're playing this composition, and you always have to be in the right place. I mean, they don't have that freedom where you can just play and you can just groove and you say, it's open-ended, we see how long it goes, we just stay on this groove. They don't have that. Of course, that's also a different principle.
Yeah, I think the problem with the classical music, like live, it's that they never stick to the same program. They always have to bring a new program, and so it's difficult for them to get really into the piece, because next month they play another piece,
Yeah,
and
sure.
it's and yeah, this might be. So that means like that single musicians just learn their parts. They don't think about the whole music. Yeah, I mean they don't have to read the partiture. But to be aware of if you play a cello, what the violin does, or if you play a violin, what the oboe or flute does, and that's why they need somebody to lead them. But it could be different if they would stick to the same program for longer period of time.
Yeah, then they can get more in depth for sure. We're getting a little bit off topic.
Back in the days, we thought everybody thought, Beatles are immortal, right? And of course, well, that was incredible, right? They were not the only ones. There were some other bands like the Kings, which didn't get that big, great songwriting though. Anyway, so Beatles, I just.
I mean, you couldn't say that people don't know the Beatles. Everybody knows the Beatles, right?
Yes.
But do they really know the songs? I mean, we all know Let It Be, Yesterday, and Imagine. We've heard them too many times. Great songs, but I can't hear them anymore. But yeah, what about all the other songs? I think, a lot of people know the Beatles, but they don't really know their songs.
Yeah, well, I have asked my son, hey, what about Beatles? He is into punk, heavy metal, and he likes classical music too.
Also some jazzy stuff.
He's
very
really
open-minded.
open-minded.
Funk.
I said, of course, Beatles, I know, and of course, like.
So you asked what are the band members?
Yeah, what are the band members? And he said, the Gringo Star. Gringo Star, so my
genius.
boy Gringo Star.
And Elton John.
And Elton John instead of John Lennon, of course.
That's fucking genius,
so, so nothing is sort of immortal.
No. Yeah, even though we all know the name of the band. Mozart. Everybody knows him, but who listens to him? Yeah.
Good.
No, but anyway, I think...
Yeah. Kings. Anyway, I think it's in those days probably the music was more innocent.
I mean, also if we're talking about the songwriting, it's really interesting. I mean, a lot of those bands came together. They were just like friends who wanted to make music together, and then they wrote their songs, right? And there were already, back in the day, there were like songwriting houses or like professional songwriters who wrote songs for other artists. Back then, Tamla Motown, right?
Detroit, I think it was.
Yeah.
They did produce some really great songs, even it was like writing at the desk.
Yeah, like it's like a desk job or something. Desk crazy,
job,
man.
yeah, sort of.
But I mean, nowadays, it has gone, it's something else. I mean, not only is it very, very common that songs aren't written by the artists themselves, but that even it's not like a songwriter writing a song for somebody else, but that there's multiple people bringing different parts of the song where it's just like, here is a chorus, here is a verse, and they just put it together. It's like some Frankenstein surgery where they just to put some random fucking body parts together, and they revive it, and it's just like, this is not the real spirit of songwriting. It's kind of perverted
and funny that it sounds the same at the end.
But maybe that's why it all sounds the same at the end, because it's all the same people writing it. It's always the same the same
way
hooks.
choosing
and
the
they know
hooks and
they know what's gonna sell, and that's
exactly.
what they choose, right?
Yeah.
That's sort of the crazy thing about mainstream, where I mean, we're not just talking about pop. I mean, back in the day, pop was still very original and diverse, I would say. And nowadays, it all sounds the same.
And the voices, many different colors.
And different ways of singing.
Different ways of singing, which is now...
Now you feel like everybody's just imitating each other.
That's terrible.
Which is really weird. But also, I don't know. It's really fascinating. Like, how does that happen, that music becomes more and more the same? And I think it's a little bit of a vicious circle where certain things sell, and then the companies producing music, they realize that sells, so they create more of that. And the more that they just do the same thing over and over again, the more us listeners, we get used to music sounding a certain way, whether we're talking about the ways that the voice is edited, or we're talking about the beats or the sounds. It's like we want or we expect music to sound a certain way, and in turn that makes them produce more of the same stuff. Then we can also talk about the electronic beats, right? And how everything just has to have that heartbeat.
It's amazing. Imagine you're a soft guy, you can make a hard beat. It's
anybody can make a hard beat if you have a computer. No, but I mean... But it's also like when I'm going out and it all sounds the same, and you realize people need a certain type of beat to be able to dance. And oh my God, no, this is crazy. I started hearing Earth, Wind and Fire in like mainstream DJ sets, which at first I was like positively surprised, but then I realized that they were all remixes with modern beats. And it's like, bitch, you don't need to edit Earth, Wind and Fire. It's the most groovy, danceable music ever. I mean, what the fuck? And people can't even appreciate it if it doesn't have that kind of modern beat on it or something.
I would say this magic word, simplify.
Simplify.
Simplify. You know, the music business, showbiz, I mean, they... said, take the money and run.
Yeah, it's about money. Exactly. I mean, even those Earth, Wind and Fire remixes, they are official remixes. It's not some random producer doing the remix. And I mean, probably it's not the musicians who have the rights to the songs and are making those decisions. Probably their label or whoever has the rights. But they understand that the only way to stay relevant with this music is by slapping sort of modern beats on it, which is so tragic, but that's it. It's about making money. And that's probably the biggest problem, where music is, it's not necessarily about the art anymore, but it's about consumption. It's about delivering something that sells. And delivering a lot so that you can make a lot of money. And I guess when you have more quantity, you also have less quality. Definitely. I mean, capitalism is a problem in general. Nothing new. But yes, it's nowadays, it's about money. And not only about money, but I guess a lot of the time what I see in the big industry, at least, it's about image. Because you're not really selling the music itself, you're selling the package. You're selling a package of an artist, of the way they look, the way they move, the way they talk, the meaning sort of, or the lifestyle that they portray. It's becoming less and less about music and more about everything around it. And I mean, we also notice it that as a musician, you can't just make your music. You have to make sure that you're present online. You have to be up to date on social media. And a lot of the time, I think the PR texts about musicians say a lot more than the music itself.
That's the thing is, we're talking also about faking the things, and a lot of people know it from the news, right? But it's happening in the music too, and it's nothing new. I mean, like faking. It means like you create groups, and you have handsome guys, and like acting like stars, but they don't sing.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to sing to be a star, sort of. It's nothing new. I
Yeah.
remember the band Monkeys. Yeah, it was like four good-looking guys. They never sang a note, you know.
Yeah.
And people didn't know. And yeah, who cares at the end? But then I think of this movie, Beatles movie, and. Then I saw those young guys, and they were saying, we just want to play. You know, there is nothing wrong about to want to be famous. Mm-hmm. You know, it's part of the whole thing. You can wish to be famous. There is nothing wrong about it. But to start from the beginning, without even playing a guitar or something, you know, this is more innocent to me, like when the guys come together and let's make a music because we love music and don't think about package.
Yeah, you don't think about the branding or how much money you're gonna make. You just want to make music together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that's the joy of music, the magic of the moment. That's what real music is about, and that's what is getting lost a little bit, but it's still out there. It's still in here.
You can still go for it, and discover, and discover.
Exactly. Whether you're a musician or a listener, a music lover, either way, broaden your horizons. Listen to something you've never listened to before. And go back to the roots of really just having a lot of joy in music. That's what it's about.
It's still out there.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
And we're going to keep it alive. We're going to do our best.
All right.
And if you also want to help keep music alive and evolving, then definitely keep listening to this podcast, because we're going to be talking a lot more about, all kinds of stuff about music. But not just its extinction, also happier topics.
We're gonna hit a lot of hotspots.
Yes, we are. If you've been enjoying this podcast, there is a really simple way you can support us by leaving a good rating. So click on those 5 stars. It really helps us to reach new listeners. So I think we have arrived at the end of this episode. It's been really fun. Just quickly, so you know where you can find us. We are called Rose and Doctor. That's our band. We also recently published a new music video, which is really awesome, that we produced ourselves, and I directed and edited it.
Business?
The people have to know where they can hear more from us, not just fucking blah 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 talking, but actually like hear me scream and hear this great guitarist playing his hot riffs. Yeah, if you want to hear us, just go and check it out wherever you stream music, or on the fucking social medias. You know, we try to stay on there, but we're not very active. I'm doing my best. Okay.
Me too. Bye bye.
Yes, that's it. So tune in next time. Yeah. And thanks for listening. Bye.
Thank you.